what's happening at AWS and how it may change how you do business. I am your host, Michael Krause. I am the Chief Technology Officer at Charter Solutions, where we help organizations change and innovate quickly by accelerating their acquisition and use of data.
And I'm your and I'm your co-host, John Affolter. I'm a lead technical architect on the AWS specialist team at Salesforce, where we work with potential customers and help them envision the possibilities that AWS and Salesforce enable.
Welcome to another show, John. How are things going?
Hey, things are going well. I know we occasionally talk about the weather, and it's definitely. I think we're heading into the deep cold winter here pretty soon. It feels like just
Yeah.
a little
It's
bit.
supposed it's supposed to kind of warm up throughout this week, but it was kind of scary when I woke up the other day and there was snow on the ground already.
Oh, I know. Yep. It hits you pretty hard once the snow's on the ground for sure.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. All right. Well, let's kind of move forward a little quicker today, but we've got a couple of announcements for our listeners. The first one is that we are going to be changing up our kind of our show format a little bit. We're going to be adding a couple of formats. We'll still do the normal format where we go in and take an AWS technology and kind of unpack it, and take a look at it, and talk about how organizations can leverage it and what things they might want to be aware of in that process. But we're going to be adding two new episode types. The first one is a monthly update show where we'll take a look at a selection of changes at AWS that we think are really interesting and worth kind of digging into a little bit deeper. Today is actually going to be our first one of those, our October 2022 update show. And the other one that you'll see coming up is our IRL show in real life, where we'll be bringing on people from different companies who work with AWS and talking a little bit about their experiences, their learnings, their successes and failures. Once again, to bring more information to the table to help you make good decisions and avoid the various pitfalls that might exist. So, with that said, today, taking a look at a number of recent changes. And the first one that I think we should be taking a look at is Amazon RDS Proxy. So, for people who are unfamiliar with RDS Proxy, it's an Amazon service that sits between your applications and your database, typically running on RDS or Amazon Aurora. And what RDS Proxy allows you to do is, well, what it does is it provides a kind of a middleware that handles all your connections, handles failover at a little bit faster level, and kind of insulates your database from your application. So, for example, if you have an application that scales up and needs thousands of connections, but your database really can't handle thousands of connections, RDS Proxy will kind of manage it. So it's think of it as a remote database connection pool for your applications. Um, so in areas of like failover, so if your database starts to fail, things like that, because it's aware of all the connections, you don't have to create new connections to your databases once you fail over, and you can reduce failover time for up to like 83%. So all that's interesting, but what's new? What's new is they have now released RDS proxy support for Microsoft SQL Server running on RDS. So that's another database. All of the companies out there who might be using SQL Server as their backend database for their applications now have the capability of leveraging RDS proxy to add further resilience and further scalability into their application. Moving
Okay.
on, John, any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, anything that you can do to ease the kind of the backups and all of the things that you're going to just have to do anyways, and code it in there and just have it be able to be just supported. And anything where SQL Server or people that are already utilizing SQL Server, if they want that support and not have to build that in, it gives more reasons, I think, to come onto AWS in general. So
It might not be a bad idea for us to make note of doing a show on RDS proxy by itself, because there's
yeah.
a lot of cool features. One of the other ones that you don't hear mentioned quite as often is that if you use RDS proxy, basically you use IAM to provide your applications the ability to connect up to RDS proxy. But RDS proxy is actually connecting to the database. So RDS proxy uses entries in Secrets Manager to manage its connections into the database. And you never have to put any kind of credentials then in your database or even touch the database credentials per se.
Yeah, that I've remembered a couple of interesting access issues that we've had with certain databases back in the past, Michael, and yeah, that definitely relieves at least a week or two of headaches, I guess you'd say. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So moving on. The next one is on Elastic Container Service. So Elastic Container Service now offers faster auto scaling experience for scale in. So in the past, you could only scale in so quickly, or in other words, reduce the amount of tasks in ECS after you've scaled out. They have now made it much faster to scale in, to the point of they they did a test and they had 1,000 tasks running and they needed to scale it in uh, down to about 100 tasks, and it went from about 80 minutes to scale all that in down to 10 minutes. So when you're looking at a large scale out due to capacity demand, and when you're done and that demand falls off, in the past it would take much more time to scale that in, and that would cost you money because you have excess capacity out there that is unneeded. Now you can scale down faster, more aggressively, and save much more money.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that that's obviously going to save a lot of money, especially if you're the size of some of these, environments, and to be able to cut that down, 8 to 1. That's
Yep.
incredible.
Yeah. 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 And it's just, again, it's another way of cost savings, right?
Hmm.
If you think about it, you know, we could probably come up with other interesting reasons why that's helpful. But the one that really stands out all over everything else is the faster we can make that elasticity happen and scale in, the less money we're spending on unneeded resources.
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent. So AWS Fargate has a new announcement as well, and they have increased the compute and memory resource configurations available with Fargate by 4 times. So now you can make uh, Elastic Container Service tasks and Kubernetes pods up to 16 virtual CPUs. That's 4 times what you used to be able to. In addition, you can now provision up to 120 gigabytes of memory on Fargate. So nice changes there, especially for people who have a need for larger ECS instances, ECS tasks. But we're limited by Fargate's capability and had to go to EC2 backed tasks instead.
Hmm. Great. So Amazon SageMaker Data Wrangler has now launched advanced settings for Amazon Athena data sources. So, this update is going to reduce a lot of the time that it takes to prepare and aggregate that data for machine learning to be able to be used in Amazon Studio. So, you can really, simplify the data preparation, all the feature engineering, and do every part of your workflow, including all the data collection, the cleansing, exploration, and all the visualization right from one interface. So, being able to import multiple data sources, like S3, Amazon Redshift, Snowflake, and 26 other federated query data sources now supported by Amazon Athena. So now people that are importing from Athena can configure an S3 query output location and have a data retention period to control where and how long Athena stores that intermediary data. So this is something that is really going to increase the usability of Athena, I think, and just especially with all these federated queries into other places as well. Um,
Well, it's
that's a
going to
lot.
simplify the effort involved in using Data Wrangler.
Yeah, it's really, you'll be able to do all the things that you would have done in Athena, or be able to do that from Data Wrangler. It's this is kind of an interesting place, is that you know the differences between where you might use like a data wrangler and where you might use a glue. And this, it's obviously making it to where they want the data scientists to be able to do everything from this one place without even trying to really heavily lean on a data engineer as well.
Right.
So,
Right. That
you know,
is awesome. That
yeah.
is
So, especially being able to use, configure an S3 query as an output, that's pretty cool. So, yeah.
well, I like to see, yeah, everybody gets excited about things like, oh, we dropped price. Oh, we've changed something. So we've added more scalability or made it easier for you to save money. The other thing that really excites me is every time Amazon releases something that reduces the amount of effort or expertise required to perform a task,
Yeah.
saves money, increases the speed of innovation, reduces time to market on things like that. So this is just another one of those things.
Yeah, and it democratizes the innovation too into more people that might have other, types of ideas that maybe wouldn't have been able to. It would have taken too long to be able to make things happen. So I think it's, definitely a great update. So
Excellent. So we've got an update on um, the Amazon MSK, so managed services for Kafka, specifically the serverless version. It is now HIPAA eligible. So they just released the serverless version of MSK not too long ago, and now you can it's on Amazon's list of HIPAA eligible services, which means you can now use Kafka to store, process, and access PHI, protected health information, and power, even more so, secure healthcare processing. So that's a pretty cool, item, especially if as we start trying to move more and more real time processing into the healthcare space.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, anything that we can improve, the interoperability of data, especially in healthcare. I mean, that's a huge passion for me, and definitely another great update. So,
Absolutely. Follow on with that, Amazon Kendra.
yep,
If people remember what Kendra is, it's an intelligent search service powered by machine learning, and it basically reaches into a number of different document stores and allows you to very intelligently search those things for specific documents. Kendra has now released support for Dropbox, so they now have a Dropbox connector, which means you can include files that are stored in Dropbox in your Kendra searches.
yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. You know that there's a lot of people that have Dropbox that you know. You, now you don't have to go and load it anywhere else to be able to use that same capability. So,
Yep.
pretty cool.
Absolutely. Now, hopping over to AWS IoT, IoT FleetWise was available in preview. It is now generally available. So it helps automobile companies collect, transform, and transfer vehicle data in near real time in the cloud, and apply things like machine learning, analytics, et cetera, onto that data. Um, it's a pretty cool thing. People should go check it out.
Great. And then, Amazon SageMaker has now provided a feature where you can actually keep your training man. It's called training managed warm pools. So it's basically what it is you're keeping your training instances running. So if you once you complete it, if you think that it's going to run again in a you know a probably a small amount of time, or usually within a certain amount of time, you can keep that warm so it doesn't take a while to get those pods going again and have that cold start problem. So you can do iterative experimentation or run consecutive jobs at scale for a model training on these same warm instances. So it does an 8-time reduction in job startup latency.
That's
So
awesome.
another 8 to 1. So Amazon SageMaker model training is a fully managed capability. So it spins up instances for every job, trains it, and then spins it down after the instances or after the job is done. So you're only billed for that duration of the job, actually.
Yeah,
This is
I
fully
love it
pretty
when
good.
they come out with these things because it's like it's not, oh, hey, we've increased this by 5%. It's like, oh, 8 times.
Yeah, yeah. This is not a small. I mean, these are massive, cost savings and massive performance savings as well. So, It gives the customers the focus on, or the freedom to focus on their ML algorithm and really not worry about any infrastructure management while training their models. So, the ML ops team is definitely going to be shrinking after stuff like this. So.
That's excellent.
So our next one, also staying in SageMaker here. So Canvas now supports quicker setup time of time series forecasting models. Usually, I feel like people that are utilizing Canvas, a lot of them are doing some sort of time series analysis a lot of
Mhm.
the times, or some sort of business analysis. So, having a point and click service that allows these analysts basically to utilize machine learning and do this time series analysis. Another democratization of features, and it really supports a lot of different use cases for inventory management, retail, demand planning, and manufacturing, workforce and planning and travel and hospitality, revenue prediction and finance, and many other functions where highly accurate forecasts are very important. So, I love the very industry focused, capabilities that it has. And again, I said, that's usually a business analyst doing that. So, being able to provide them with a lot more advanced options is definitely a great thing. So,
Well, and that's one of those interesting things is when we go from batch overnight types of things, and we move closer and closer to real time. Time series becomes much more important, right?
yes.
Looking at a patient, what's happened with the patient yesterday is one thing. Looking at what's happening with the patient due to the sensors and monitors on it over the last 5 or 10 minutes is now time series data, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Past was
exactly.
a chunk that happened to have timestamps on it. Now it's time series data because as things move through time, the shift that happens becomes very important.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All
Um,
right, over to. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something else you want to say on that
oh,
one?
no, no, I'm good.
Excellent. So let's hop over to Amazon S3 for a moment. So Amazon S3, if ha- has a feature called S3 Object Lambda, and this was released, I think, within the last 12 months. I'm trying to remember. And what it does is it allows you to write an AWS Lambda function that can basically inject itself into the get of an Amazon S3 object and control that data, filter it, convert it, whatever. For example, if you had a CSV file with a bunch of data in it and you wanted to be able to filter that file for people who ask for it by removing certain things they shouldn't see, you can do that with this by writing a Lambda that would do that. So basically, it routes through. What they've announced now is being able to do that same thing, not just for the object get, but also for S3 head and list API requests. So you have the ability to basically create something that sits between the request and the file and or the request and the results of that request and lets it do some processing, either injecting information, removing information, converting information on the fly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It'd be, anything, we were just talking about this before, but being able to manipulate and, control data with S3 and keep it in S3 and be able to do that on a large scale it really simplifies a lot of these data lake architectures. So,
Yeah, and even just simple sharing mechanisms, right? I've got a set of files that you know I could even apply. I could just reject it. You ask for it, John, and I'd say, "Oh, it's John. No, you can't have this file."
yeah, no, it's being able to simplify the sharing too with things like healthcare data and be able to have another mechanism to have to enforce policy as well. It's definitely it makes things a lot easier in the
Right,
end.
right. Well, and I mean, even think of something. Before the show, you and I were talking about image resizing on AWS.
Yeah,
Right? Imagine having a lambda that would convert images into a common format.
yeah, yep,
Drop the images in whatever format you want, but when you go and do a get, you'll always get a 250 pixel by 250 pixel PNG.
yep.
You know, and you could do that with this. You don't have to pre-convert everything if the cost is reasonable and the time is reasonable for that get. All right, moving on.
I know I'm learning something I'm using just in these updates already. So,
I love it. So let's move on to Amazon Aurora, specifically Amazon Aurora serverless. So, not too long ago, Amazon released Aurora serverless version 2, which was a very large upgrade from version 1, considering that I had used version 1 for something and it was great to play with, not in any way ready for production. Version 2 has fixed a lot of those things, but one thing that was missing was CloudFormation support. So they have now released AWS CloudFormation support. You can now create and manage your AWS serverless version 2 deployments with CloudFormation.
why? I wonder why that wasn't supported right out of the gate.
I really don't have that information, and
Yeah,
it would
it's.
be fun to ask somebody I know about that.
I mean, I just wonder what the technically what was the what could have been something that was holding them back on that one.
Yeah, don't know.
Um, so Amazon SageMaker Clarified now can provide near real time explanations for ML predictions. So, being able to have explainability in your model, especially when you're dealing in a business case and you're having to explain any actions or insights, it's definitely helps be able to communicate the actual reasons of why a model is turning out in a certain way. So it definitely provides more. It provides a lot deeper of an insight of just what you're looking at as far as the numbers or the insights that you're getting. So it now supports online explainability. Really at near real time on live endpoints. So gives you a lot more a lot more visibility into certain types of bias. Also explains predictions, but it really does its best when it considers feature inputs and how they're inputting or how they're actually impacting the model. So it provides a score detailing which features really contribute to your model the most on each individual prediction. And then there's a new model that can be run right after that on new data with different types of inputs. So really can help determine if a particular input of features has more of an influence on the model than you had actually expected. So each
So,
prediction, yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was going to ask. So, one of the things that I hear about Clarify is, you could definitely go back and look at when a model was run, what came out of it. But there, people also talk about, oh, hey, you can use the API to get this information and provide that back to people. Have you seen much of the kind of real time, kind of more public usage of the why at all, or do you see it more as more of a retrospective stuff still happening today?
Uh, as far as like utilizing explainability or
Yeah. Do you see the explainability utilized in more of a kind of retrospective? Let's look at what it did and why it made those decisions to see if we maybe need to update the model or just make us feel good. Or do
yeah.
you see it more in real time where oh hey, I am recommending these 5 things to you, and here is the reason why I'm recommending these things to you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It can be used in next best action. It can be used in, being able to provide another series of suggestions based off the inputs as well. So, it could be used kind of retrospectively and looking ahead of what then would suggest the other, next best actions is what we utilize.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well,
So, you know, the these could be stuff. These could be things like customer service representatives that can better understand the reasons why a customer may churn. Then also call for help resolving the problem in real time, just like I was saying before, next best action. So as a representative learns more about the nature of the customer's issue and enters the data, different things on set or on being able to get sentiment, and then that updates the reasoning for suggested resolution. So similar to what we were just talking about. So definitely definitely a really cool, interesting way to be able to track uplift modeling as well, and
Yes,
be able to track
absolutely.
that.
Yes. All right. And last one for today. And, this is one I think I need to go and dig into. It's really interesting sounding. I have not had a chance to play with it yet. If it works as I hope it does, it could actually be a pretty powerful tool. So, uh, AWS IAM Access Analyzer is available, and it now reviews your CloudTrail history to identify actions across about 140 AWS services, and will generate for you fine-grained policies based on that analysis of CloudTrail history. So this is, really cool. Includes actions from services like CloudFormation, DynamoDB, SQS, etc. And it'll go through and kind of pre-gen a policy. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen policies that are
Yeah.
created that are way too open. Uh, you
Mhm.
know, even ignoring the ones where people do wildcarded policies, right?
Mhm.
But things that are way too open. And what this allows them to do is really kind of based on actual usage,
Mhm.
create a policy that's very fine grained.
Yeah, really, least amount of privileges, be able to really enforce that without cutting on autonomy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, that ends our list of updates that we want to review today for October. We'll be doing another one of these shows in November. Please send us any feedback, any thoughts, how we could improve the update show, information you'd like to hear. We would love to hear it all from you guys. So thank you again for joining us. We do hope you learned something today. That's why we do this.
Mhm.
And we would love to hear from you, both for feedback for this or any other topics you'd like to hear us about. So join us next time for another fun and interesting